So guys, you both have two very different perspectives. Jay, you as a national guy, and Craig, you in the Phoenix market primarily. What are you seeing as the real estate headline now?
Consolidation of service companies is the real estate headline right now, and high prices.
Big consolidation. We just did an interview together, and that's one of the biggest things we're talking about. And I think what's interesting is, even within all the consolidation, the largest groups only control 19%, maybe in submarkets like Manhattan where it's bigger, but there's still a huge consolidation wave that's continuing to come.
And it's not real estate related. All of the consolidation that's going on right now has to do with private merchant banking, and in most cases, billionaires playing with entities like service companies, trying to make another $1 or $2 billion for their investors.
Go ahead.
DTZ announces yesterday they're raising $2 billion.
Right.
I mean, it's coming.
Yeah.
Lots more.
And there's the whole, there is the service provider buying service provider thing too, with the news. We just had it on Globe Street about Cushman & Wakefield possibly going to TBG.
Right.
Absolutely. And Cushman bought in Chicago yesterday.
Yeah.
Bought a big landlord services firm, and I think there'll be many more mergers and acquisitions because it's a good time to sell.
Right.
The question is it a good time to buy?
Does it then become a good time for public markets? Are we going to see what we saw in the last upcycle, a whole rush toward REITism?
Well, REITs are here to stay. I mean, clearly, they've proven. What hasn't been proven is all the ancillary stuff that comes in with it. REITs are here to stay. They're going to continue to grow.
Right.
What I find interesting is, in the last cycle we had TICs, and they've proven that it didn't work. This cycle we have crowdfunding, and then, is that going to stick? I believe that in terms of public market driven, I think REITs are here to stay. They're going to continue to grow, especially now. And I've got a thing coming out in a week on this, and I think you'll agree with this, especially now with all the institutions saying formally that real estate's at least 10% and probably going to be 15% of our portfolio. And so now we view it as a major asset class, as opposed to an ancillary to everything else.
And you still have the superiority of performance compared to the bond market, the stock market, all that good stuff.
No, I agree with you 100%. The REITs are here to stay. The REITs are going to merge with each other also to get bigger. The other thing that's interesting is that if you look at the Prologis purchase last week, with the main financial backing behind that, it's offshore with the Norwegian sovereign fund. That could be a whole nother wave of money being introduced to the REIT market through other sources, and we haven't seen that in a long time. I will say, I'm still nervous that we've seen this movie before when prices are high, cap rates are low, fundamentals are okay, and I just don't understand why an apartment in London is $15,000 a foot, or a cap rate in London is 2%, or in New York an apartment is $10,000 a foot and a cap rate is 3%.
Right.
There's a lot of warning signs out there.
No, and I'll tell you, I think on my own portfolio, I sent myself an email the other day that said, hey, get in or get out. This is the year for me. I'm not going to go. We're not looking for I'm not personally looking for long-term. I mean, I think that there's some assets that I own that I'm thinking about selling because the last couple of years, the compression on cap rates have come down.
Right.
But there's certainly this bifurcation in the marketplace that you and I had a conversation about a couple of weeks ago, where anything Class A has been compressed. And then there's this whole other market, because the market isn't 50% Class A. It's 30%.
Right.
So there's 70% of the market out there that hasn't done particularly well.
Right.
And so that market is still out there that needs to improve.
Well, see, this is why I get so cautious, and it gets back to what you were saying before. I hear enough people who are like slap happy with the upcycle, and then I hear other people expressing just what you were expressing, that need for caution. I was doing a story just this morning about how the underwriting's getting a little bit sloppy. Then other people are saying, I'm not seeing it. I was talking with Gabriel Silverstein of SIOR, as a matter of fact, just the other day, and he said that caution is good. That little bit of paranoia is good. My problem comes not with the paranoia, but with the schizophrenia. there's like two totally different markets going on.
There are definitely two markets, and the market that is chasing, the buy side is chasing because there's a lot of money out there that has to go somewhere. And I think your point on real estate now becoming a legitimate asset class for institutional investors is really making it. And you have to remember, I mean, if you just start with basics of, you have negative interest in Europe, you have no interest earnings in the United States, and the stock markets are all-time highs. If you put money into a 4%, 5%, or a 6 or 7 if you're in the secondary or tertiary asset type, it's still a lot better than basically zero return that you're earning, or negative return if you're an overseas investors. But you're correct, the schizophrenia, for every person that says it's going to continue, I think there's now 1.5 saying, hold the horses.
Yeah. And I got to say, God bless America. I mean, literally, the best part for all of us is there is absolutely this market, and it's robust. And for every guy who's saying, I love this asset, and when we sell a Class A, we just sold a couple of big Class A assets, there were people lined up. And then on the other hand, the owners are going, man, we hope this closes. And to me, as a service provider and advisor, great for us because we have both sides in it. And there's really a difference in market. People know what they're looking for.
Right. And just keep in mind, at some level, we've had some pretty big blows or headwinds that haven't completely broken the market. Mm-hmm. The euro is way devalued compared to the dollar. The ruble is completely devalued to the dollar, and in 1998 that threw the credit markets into seizure and stopped, and they didn't move at all. And I think your point's really the right point. We as service providers need movement. What we can't afford is when it goes flat, when there's no decision making and no activity. Then that's where, if that were to happen, and then you overlay that with some of the mergers and acquisitions in the service companies, if the music stops, meaning that we go flat, it could be very painful for people buying at top of the market. Very painful.
Nobody ever wants to be the poster child for a dumb move.
I do think, though, that these institutions, with caution, are saying, look, we're in this. We think we're buying a quality asset that even if the music stops, we're going to be in it for the longer haul.
Right.
They're not buying Class A assets today and saying I'm going to flip them in 18 months. They're buying them and saying, hey, it's a 7 to 10 year hold, which I think is long enough for the next cycle, even if it comes bad.
Is that basically true? And maybe, Jay, you have a better perspective on this. Is that necessarily true in all markets?
No.
Because, there are areas like the oil patch, where, from what I understand, and this may sound like I'm going far afield, but if the oil prices go below $40 a barrel, then it's going to be problematic. But people are starting to get cautious there. They're not looking for long-term holds right now. So talk to me about make it a little bit more granular.
Well, let's start from a global point of view. There's a lot of places that are doing just wonderfully, and there are places like southern Italy, Spain, Portugal that have Greece, 40% unemployment if you're under 40 years old. So you're going to lose a whole generation. So there's no investment going on there. They're coming back. They're coming back from where the unemployment was 42. So now it's 40. So it's little things like that. And then you come to the United States, if it's New York, San Francisco, and Miami. And if you look at those three markets, you more or less have to put them to the side and then talk about all other markets.
And it used to be Texas.
Yeah.
I mean, Houston, crazy. The last 5 years, they didn't know there was a recession. They finally are waking up and going, oh, wait a minute. Now I kind of experience a little bit of what the rest of the U.S. has been experiencing. But you're right. Every other marketplace has been slowly getting better.
Yeah, and at some level, you hit it. It's all about what the product type is in the back. Because, I heard of a multifamily deal in Minnesota trading in the 4 range, and you think, before in Minnesota, you first react like that, but then you go, well, wait, multifamily is very highly desired. It's new construction. It's basically fully leased. It has all the right fundamentals, and then you contrast that you can do a 7 or 8 on an office building over there. So it really becomes specific. New York, Manhattan, you have to put into a whole different category.
It was just because it gets even granular than that, because even at the SIOR Tri-State conference a couple of weeks ago, we had this discussion. They had owners from Manhattan and the suburbs, specifically Long Island, where I live, and New Jersey. And the Manhattan owner was just all hot and bothered. He was happy as a clam. And the 2 guys from the suburbs were saying, not so much.
But therein lies exactly the point of both his firm and our firm and all of these firms. The decision making now is so refined. You can't just broadly brush the marketplace. You can't say Phoenix. Phoenix is made up of 9 different submarkets or major submarkets. And so you have to look at these and you have to say, look, I have to find somebody who's really specializing within that marketplace and within that marketplace, within that submarket. Because it really is now, it's really different.
Well, and the other thing is, in going back to, as you were saying, the New York, New Jersey example, I mean, you're talking about going from Class A rental rates of $150 to $200 for new construction, $150 to $200 a square foot in Manhattan, to $30 within 30 miles. Within 30 miles, and at some level, and we had this discussion in New York. One of the questions was, well, if you're a CEO of a New York-based company and you can pay $120 or you can pay $30 to house your 1,000 people, it's not a real estate decision anymore. It's a economic decision that has bottom line. And and then the other thing that I see, and I see this in a lot of markets, technology will not be the savior of all office space. It's been great, and it's been growing everywhere, like San Francisco, like New York, certainly different areas. But at some level, not every tech company is going to be Google.
Right.
Hopefully they all will be, but
we've seen this again too.
It's called 2001.
Yeah,
it was
exactly
a movie.
right.
It was
exactly, that's exactly right.
Exactly.
And we have it. The amount of money, we were talking about this last week, and the amount of money that's funding this tech Regis concept is unbelievable. And I'm a personal investor in some tech companies, and I got to tell you, my returns haven't been that great.
Really?
There's a lot of failures in the tech industry. Yeah. For every Google, there's 1,000 non-Googles.
And you don't really hear about those.
No, you don't.
No, we're all crying in the corner.
You don't hear about the guys in the garage.
Yes, that's right.
And the other thing that so people, the question I get all the time by traveling so much is what's going to tip. Everyone is convinced the market is peaking. The question is when and what will cause it to go over the top. And I kind of go, it's esoteric. I think there's so much money out there that's been put into the system by the Federal Reserve. The numbers that we get from our economists is that in the last 4 years, they put more money into the system than in the last 50 years. So if you think about that, well, I'm 50-ish years old. So in 4 years, they put more money in than my whole lifetime.
Right.
In my lifetime, interest rates have never been this low. And it's not a question about the money's there. So when you think about capitalization rates, nobody's going to care about fundamentals anymore, because as long as you can get the debt, and it's going to be, even if the debt doubles, even if it goes up 200 basis points, it's still inexpensive. It's still very inexpensive. So.
You brought up the interest rates, and let's just kind of get that part of the conversation out of the way. We all know now they're going to go up. That has been confirmed. Is it going to matter?
Yes.
Because I've heard no. If it's not a lot,
it's going to be good for the economy, which most people go, how is it going to be good for the economy? So, I want to quote my economist, Peter Litteman, who, because I did not bring this data up. Peter
Peter's
did.
My guy too.
Yeah. So Peter's theory is very simple: that grandma and grandpa have $200,000 cash in the bank, and that's the average savings of the grandmas and grandpas out there right now, and they're earning zero basically on their interest. If that goes to 2% from 1%, 100 basis point move, they're now earning double what they're earning. So if Johnny or Sally need an apartment or a down payment or something to pay for to get their first home or their first condo or their less expensive place to own, they'll be more inclined to lend them or give them $10,000 or $20,000. He thinks that's 650 to 750,000 houses being held back from the market because the kids have the cash flow, they don't have the down payment.
That's what's holding housing back.
And his third, and so you always ask, well, it'll be more expensive to borrow. And he said, what? It'll be 4% 30-year mortgage, so it'll be 4.5%? Right. It's still so inexpensive that they have the cash flow to afford the mortgage.
Interesting.
The free ride is over, whatever. You can't double the debt of the United States in the last 8 years and reduce debt payment.
Right.
And it's going to come home to roost. The debt service for America is going to go up, which is going to drag the economy back down again. I mean, it's happening.
Yeah.
It's going to happen.
And the other thing is, when you think of other tipping points, we have complete unrest in the Middle East. We have complete unrest in the Ukraine and Eastern Europe. We have complete unrest in some of the African countries in different areas. Parts of Central and South America have unrest and they're energy dependent, so they just got a 50% cut on their energy exports. The Chinese have vacancy and defaults for the first time ever, and they're going to allow them. And that hasn't tipped the market. So I keep coming back to what will tip this. And I think you said it. Some tech company that's going to be a name tech company is going to go for a public offering, or they're going to have really bad earnings, and all of a sudden some CEO, venture capitalist is going to go, enough.
Right.
We don't need 500 employees, slash and burn it to make money, and then they're going to slash and burn it, and then that'll cause the next tech CEO and the next, and that, keep in mind, they've been the #1 absorber of office space in the last 3-4 years. Not the law firms, not the accounting firms, the traditional firms, not the government.
No.
Let's put final thoughts on this then. We've talked enough about what's good in the market, what's bad in the market. Give me the 30-second elevator speech from each of you. Craig, what do you see going forward for the next 6 months to 2 years?
Well, I think
to the extent we can predict.
Yeah, I think we're going to continue this slow kind of growth. I don't think the tipping point's going to occur in the next 6 months to a year. I do think that there's still a lot of room for people to start adding jobs in a different marketplace other than the tech marketplace. Right. What we haven't seen yet, which has been damn frustrating, has been the mortgage companies or the other mom and pop plumbing guys that haven't added employees because they're so paranoid about the marketplace going well. And so that's how we all make our money. It's the foundation of the marketplace. It's not one sector, oil, or one sector, tech company. Right. It's plumbers and mortgage companies and construction companies and people that are growing, and we haven't seen it.
Jay?
I agree 100% that it won't be in 6 months. 2015 is in the book. It's going to be a record year. It'll be a great year, 2015. There'll be more property sales. There'll be property sales at higher prices. There's going to be more leasing activity. The train is like a battleship. We can't stop what's going on. 16, 17, you get a little grayer, and if we have anything that tips us, it could happen quicker and sharper, and we've seen this before. But at the same time, this is not bad for all of the service companies here at the SIOR conference, because in a certain regard, the independent firms will even benefit, and some of the firms like Lee & Associates and NAI Global will also benefit from some of the mergers and acquisitions that are taking place at the top of the service industry, because it's a very simple process. If he makes $1 million and I make $500,000, I'm a good guy, but they keep him.
Well, we'll keep you both. I wish we had more time. Guys, thanks for your time. I appreciate it.